All right, Jeremiah Head. Welcome to the Do Hard Things podcast. Good to have you on here.
Thanks.
Excited to hear your story.
Yeah.
For people who don't know who you are,
yeah.
Or maybe just may have heard your name, can you share a little context? And the best way to do that is when people ask you what you do, how do you answer that question?
Okay. Currently, if they ask me what I do now, it would be, I'm the co-founder of ROMWOD. So I do that. And then also I compete as a master's athlete in CrossFit. And I wouldn't say I do that for a living. That's just more of like my passion and what I do for enjoyment. And then I coach also. I coach my kids in volleyball and basketball. And then I still coach people in CrossFit a lot too. So just a lot of the sports world, CrossFit world, for the most part. That's what I do right now. Yeah.
So for people who don't know what ROMWOD is, can you explain that?
Yeah. So ROMWOD is it's an online app that you use that we designed to be just a stretching tool for athletes. So we designed it first we came up with the idea for CrossFitters just because, that was the world I was in currently. And my brother was a yoga instructor. He still is a yoga instructor. And so we just combined both worlds. And so it's an app designed for just, working on your flexibility and your range of motion. And, ROMWOD stands for range of motion workout of the day. So, so it's just to help everyone, obviously as we get older, it's more important to stay flexible and stretch. And, something I never did for, almost 38, 39 years of my life. I didn't really ever do it, while my brother was doing all this yoga, I never did it. I was playing sports and doing CrossFit and lifting heavy. And so, so it's an app that you follow along. They're easy to follow routines. There's nothing complicated to it. There's a lot more very cool stuff on the app now where you can test your range of motion. And there's all these, we can use the phone technologies now to, see where you are. And then after a while, you can go back and retest it and see, and then it will give you, recommendations for, what should you work on for this and what should you work on for that. And so, the team that runs all the apps and all the development stuff is just moving at light years faster than we ever imagined, and just the cool stuff that they keep working on. So it just keeps getting better and better and better. But yeah, at its core, it's just, really simple to follow along, really effective stretching programs for athletes, So, and when I say stretching, a lot of people, it's more about hitting into the fascia and the ligaments and the tendons versus stretching muscles. So it's more of a working on the actual structural changes in range of motion over stretching your quads and hamstrings out, before you do something. So, yeah.
Okay. That is a big distinction.
It is. Yes.
I have in my head what you just described.
Yes.
Okay, I got to loosen up these larger muscles. I was feeling like I need to start doing that more this morning when I was running.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have thought that way.
Yeah, because I think there's because you don't want to overstretch muscles beforehand, obviously, right? Because we know, especially with power movements and stuff. So one of the things that happens when I first did yoga with my brother, I took this hour and 45-minute crazy long yoga class, and I was like, okay, that was crazy long, and it felt really good when I got done. But the next day, I went to lift weights and I was just trashed. I was overly stretched. My hamstrings were shot. And I was like, well, I'm never doing this again, because it totally blew me up. And I was like, it took me 3 days to now, obviously I was I looked like a Sasquatch in there. I couldn't move. And everyone was like, who's this guy in the front row? So we knew that it couldn't be that. We knew it couldn't be stretching, and it had to be more, in the joint capsules and those obviously you're going to have muscle that's going to be affected, but the idea is that we're actually not necessarily stretching that stuff, especially if you're doing it before, right? You really are just trying to hit the joints and the stuff, and just basically just convince it to get open a little bit more, so that when you go warm up and you do your workouts, then those things, you have a little more room in there, a little more accessibility to squat correctly, or to overhead squat or snatch, or all the different things that we do in CrossFit. It's unlimited number of things.
Yeah. Do you guys have, I don't know if you have done this already, but do you have ambitions of expanding it to other sport disciplines?
Yeah. And we have, the crazy part is we've dabbled so much in the last 7 years. So we do, it's kind of like finding how do you get that hold, right? CrossFit, which just happened to be something that was needed at the time. Everyone was, when we started it came out of like, we just saw people in our city they would go in and take yoga classes with my brother. That's how it started. And I was like, you could make a killing off the CrossFitters just offering a once a week class. And then he came back with, I've got this other idea. And then we just ran with that. And it took us 6 to 8 months to like really develop it. But we've got an amazing opportunity to so we've gone to like UCLA does their summer training camp at our college near us. And probably 5 years ago, the coach at the time, the strength and conditioning coach, was really into ROMWOD and CrossFit and all this stuff. So we actually got to go to training camp and work with the UCLA football team, and the whole team we would go out. We went out there for 3 days, and as they were running through their training camp, every day they had to come through, and my brother would lead them through live ROMWODs, and then I would walk around and work. And it was crazy. And so that was fun. Like we were working with, a bunch of those guys went pro, at the time. And so you had some guys that were the most crazy flexible. And then you had other guys that literally could not touch their shins. But they didn't care, they were fast as lightning, and they weren't worried about it. So, and then we've done some Dodgers, like AAA team stuff, and we've had some MMA stuff. So I know we have a lot, some golfing stuff. And I know from just experience from talking to a lot of people, a lot of triathletes use it a lot, because there's one discipline that really beats themselves to the ground.
Right.
More than CrossFit, I would say it's triathletes and endurance athletes, right? They just hammer themselves. So I know a lot of them like to use it at night to recover and to like let their body come back, because they punish themselves. So yeah, and I think we're always looking, and again our development team, and they're the guys that that help us run the company, that are running all the day-to-day and all that stuff. They have some really cool stuff that they're working on right now, and just always trying to think outside the box, at this point. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Unintended.
Yes, exactly. Oh, that's right.
So that's like business, Jeremiah.
Yes.
And then you talked about coaching and coaching your kids.
Yeah.
So when you think about I'll ask this question: the 3 words that would describe your life to this point.
Yeah.
What 3 words come to mind?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, definitely coaching is like the first word that comes to mind. That describes who I am and what I do first. I would say that definitely is like kind of who I've done, and that's who I've been since I was 18. So I'm almost 40. I'm halfway through 47 right now. So approaching 30 years of my life. There has probably not been a year in those 30 years that I haven't coached something. So I began coaching right when I was 18 years old, like right out of high school. So I would say a coach is for sure. The second word I would say is just family. Like my family is super important to me. Like my wife and my kids, we do everything in a very unusual way, I would say. Like we're a team, like we do everything together. We're kind of always together, supporting each other. And so it's been really neat, team for, if I'm competing, my kids are there. If they're doing it, I'm coaching them. And my wife is obviously wrangling everything, and she's holding us together and keeping it there. But so, family would be the second word. And then I would say, God or faith would be the third thing. Is just, the most important thing that really keeps us all together and keeps us grounded. And and everything that's going on in the world, and even with ROMWOD or just CrossFit, or just all the changes that took place in our lives from before ROMWOD and after, if we didn't have God, I don't know what would happen, as far as like when you change your life so drastically from, an elementary school teacher on this really simple salary to, a little more freedom financially. And what do you do with that? And there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And so, that being grounded in God and faith and being Christian is I think really helped us, and especially get through these last couple of years that have been pretty rough for, a variety of reasons, obviously. So,
yeah. For you guys and the world.
Absolutely. Right.
Right. So tell me about the shirt you're wearing.
Yeah, so this is the Faith RX shirt.
Oh yeah,
that I got.
The bro part.
There we go. Jesus saves bro. Yeah. So I got we got to go to Faith RX camp in Wisconsin 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was recently.
Yeah, so the Waukesha strength camp that they had up there. So they only have a couple, and we've been trying to go since 2018, and just with my coaching schedule, it's been so hard to miss. But now that I'm only going to coach golf this year because my daughters are done playing volleyball and basketball, and my son plays golf in the spring. And I know nothing about golf. They need a coach. So I'm like, all right, cool.
Good luck, guys.
Absolutely, swing harder.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I knew Becky. I got to meet her I was at a CrossFit camp, Brute Strength in Utah one time, and she came in and we connected and went out to lunch. And so we were always wanting to like talk and whatever. And obviously, we never got to in a more meaningful way. And through my wife, they all still kind of knew about us. And Lindsay from Faith RX reached out to my wife a while ago on a post just saying, hey, and then my wife went on the Faith RX podcast, and then that led into, you guys want to come to camp and we'd love to have you. And so we got to go, and that was just, it was amazing. It was kind of like really at this point in our lives, almost like a little life changing. It's exactly what we were looking for. We've been praying about a lot of things, and we found a lot of answers in this sweaty CrossFit gym, which has been normal for our lives. So,
right.
Yeah.
Where else would you find answers?
I don't know. I find God talks to me the most when I'm exercising, and I don't know. It's just how it's always been.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that's the point of the camp, right? So
exactly. Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
It was.
Did your whole family go?
No, just me and my wife. Yeah. My kids stayed back, and they didn't want to hang out in Wisconsin again for 4 days. And
that's right.
But it was cool. And then our flight got delayed. So that's why I got the hat on, because we were so close to Chicago. We had never been. So we just went on a sightseeing tour for a day in Chicago. And that was actually super fun. It was a blast. So yeah, it ended up being, a win all the way around.
Yeah. You made the most of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to transition straight into kind of the main gist of this podcast, which is doing hard things.
Yeah.
And specifically sharing stories so that other people in the middle of hard things can be encouraged, have perspective, find some hope. And so the central question is, what's the hardest thing in your life that you wouldn't take back?
Yeah. So I would say, obviously, I've done a lot of hard things, being a little bit older and gone through a lot of things, and, I was trying to think about this when you asked me, like, what's the hardest thing I wouldn't take back? And I don't think I would take any of the hard things back, obviously, because they get you where you are. And I would say, like, I had to work tough jobs and all these different things, but I would say that those were more like just regular things. The hardest thing for me that I've gone through recently, where I learned a lot and I wouldn't take it back, was, so when I turned 40, I'm just going to go backwards. When I turned 40 in CrossFit, obviously that used to be the Masters division. That was before they made it younger. And I had a gym, ran the CrossFit. I really had no ambition of ever competing in CrossFit. I was like, I couldn't do any of the things. I had no skill, no ring muscle ups, no handstand walk, no handstand push up. I couldn't snatch. Like at 40, nothing. But I opened the gym and training or whatever. And then I turned 40 and I was like, well, let's see what happens in the open, and I'll just kind of figure out. And I got like 500th in the world. And at the time I was like, wow, I was like super happy. And it was this, and I kind of was looking at it and I was like, well, maybe I could crack that top 200 and like make that second lit. Cause at the time that was the AGOQ, right? And that was like the big thing. You had to go top 200 in your age group. And I was like, I think I could improve a couple things. And then simultaneously, that's when ROMWOD was growing, and I was straight. All of a sudden I could snatch and I could open my shoulders, and I had a little more time available. And so so the next year I got, I finished at 150th, and then I started getting, the next couple of years I made these big improvements, and I qualified for Wadapalooza in the Masters division. And so somewhere around there, I just told my wife, I made a goal, like, I'm going to qualify for the CrossFit Games. Like I'm going to do this. This is like,
just out of nowhere, you told her that? Or
she kind of knew it was going to come, but I was making like all these progresses, and I was like, I truly believe that I can get close, and I'm going to set my mind to it. And she was on board with that. Right. And so obviously that's a huge sacrifice on the family and the time and just, you have to like buckle down on everything, right? It like kind of limits a lot, just, you know, and it's dumb because you're a master and it's just you're just losing money. There's no money in it. It's not like I'm gonna, you know, there's no money in it. It's just 100%, you know, I don't know, like it was just this thing, and I got to go see the Masters of the Games, and I just like, it clicked in my head, and I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And then somewhere on the road, like I literally wrote it on my whiteboard, like I'm going to qualify for the CrossFit Games. And you know, and so again, like I'm still coaching my kids, we're still having family time, but you know, I'm training a lot more and eating a certain way, and vacations now are like, dad can't go on vacation because there's a qualifier, or there's this or there's that. And so, you know, and I qualified for Wodapalooza again, and then somewhere in there I got third at Wodapalooza, and then the next year I got second at Wodapalooza. So I'm making like all, and then, you know, and I think I told you before, in the 2018 Open, I won an open workout in the Masters division with all the jump ropes. It was most people hate that workout, and it came out and I was like, yes, thank you God. Like 500 or 600 double unders in a workout is going to be my jam, you know. And so I started making all these things, and I was getting closer, and I just kept getting close. And so years and years and years. And so so basically I never made it through my 40s, 40 to 44. The closest I got was 7 spots out. They took 20 guys and I got 27th, but it was like, okay, I can, but as soon as I turned 45, like I'm in, like I know it, it's a done deal, right? Like I'm lined up, I'm feeling good. And so we get to that year's, the Open was in the fall. It was the weird year when they changed everything. Right. They were like, let's blow everything up. And I was like, whatever. And did the Open going into my 45th year. And I was coaching volleyball in the middle, volleyball season. We're in the middle of playoffs, in the middle of the Open. So it was crazy busy. But I finished, for that first year, I finished 4th in the world overall. And I was like, amazing. Yeah, I was like, I'm in, like, I know this is my year, right? And I knew they were cutting to 10 that year, but I was like, okay, I felt so good, right? So this is 2019, right? This is like the fall. So, you know, I'm feeling good. Life is great. We're going. And I'm confident, and January comes along and I'm still feeling good. And I have to do the qualifier to go to the games that year was going to be in March. It was going to be March 13th, a very infamous date in the world, because that ends up being the day that everything goes down. But in January of that year, we have this alumni basketball thing at my old high school, and my buddy that I went to school with is the principal there. So we're doing this like a charity basketball event, and I knew I wasn't going to play basketball because I was, again, so petrified of injuring myself. And again, when you think about like all the sacrifices and stuff, like you can't even almost live life when you're old, because you're like, oh my gosh, I might hurt something, right? And like it's like, so you know, so I was literally just, all my buddies from high school were there. I hadn't seen them, so I was just going to hop in layup lines with them and like just go through the motions, but I wasn't going to play in this game. And sure enough, we're in layup lines, and I literally go to do a layup and my shoulder just pops. Like I have probably done that motion 100,000 times in my life. I played college basketball, and I go up and I just felt this like pop, and I literally couldn't lift my shoulder anymore. So I'm just like freaking out, like immediately just like, oh my gosh, like what happened? What did I do to my shoulder? You know, and I just was doing a layup. I wasn't even doing like a snatch or a muscle, like, you know. So I'm freaking out. And so that year I don't go to Wodapalooza because I qualified. I was like, nope, we're not going. So I'm rehabbing, getting up to, you know, that Wednesday before the qualifier. And I'm feeling good again. So everything felt good. I could do everything again. So the literally last workout before the qualifier, I'm just basically just doing some light snatches just to kind of make sure, touching on everything. And I go, you know, and I'm literally just hitting weight, like just doing an EMOM, little weight jumps. And I get to a weight, you know, like nothing heavy. I mean, it was heavy, but nothing that was like excessive. And every weight before it felt great. And I go pull it. And as I'm pulling it, I feel it pop again. And I even catch it. I have the whole thing on video. Like, I'm like, I don't even know why I tried to catch this stupid snatch, but I fully snatched it. And then I stand up and just drop it. And you can see in the video, I just walk out of the gym, and we had a back alley behind our gym. And I was like, oh no, like I cannot recover in 2 days. It took me 3 months to recover, and it popped again. And I'm just like, oh, devastated. And so the workouts get released the next night, and luckily there's literally no snatches and there's no ring muscle ups. And so I think, okay, I think I can actually, I'm going to do this anyways. Like I've been training for 6 years for this moment. Like I got to try. And so then I proceed to go through the most painful 4 days of my entire life. Like every workout I did, the pain in my shoulder hurt so bad on every workout. Like one of them was just all these burpees, and I got done with it and I was like shaking uncontrollably in pain on the ground. And like Tiffany, my wife, she was like kind of freaking out because she'd never seen me like suffer this hard. And I go and the first couple workouts, it's not too bad and I do okay. And then, so as the week's going along, it's getting tighter and tighter and it hurts more and more and more. And eventually I go to the doctor on Sunday morning and I have them look at it and they're like, well, it doesn't look like anything, like you don't have structural tear. Like you didn't like tear, this, it's just probably like a pulled muscle and you just stopped doing everything right now. And I was like, well, I'm going to go for a 1-rep clean and jerk in about 3 hours. So I was like, so I still go and I hit like decent weight, but I still can't get to where I want. And so like, I'm literally just like borderline, like internally blowing, like freaking out. And, I go to do the last workout on Monday morning because it used to be a 4-day thing. And, I can't even, it's supposed to be chest to bar and overhead squats and an ascending ladder of overhead squats that ends at 225. And so I have to be able to get this weight over my head and stabilize it. And I have to be able to pull my shoulder through range of motion to do chest to bar. And I go to the gym in the morning and I literally can't even make my shoulder move. So I have to go home and I don't know what we were like heating it and rubbing it and massaging it. And I was like, I have to go try again because she had been looking at the leaderboard and she's like, you literally still might qualify with this shoulder problem because I got second on the first workout, like, cause it was before it was double unders and thrusters. So it was like, I was like my thing. And, so I go and, I do it and I just fought, like, I think I damaged it even more with just the sheer, like, I'm going to get these overhead squats done. And I did it and I finished it. And so then we just had to wait cause it's the leaderboard, and, so then that's the weekend that everything in the world is closing down. So like I'm in the middle of this like war and my body's breaking down. Then all of a sudden I'm watching we had to close our gym down simultaneously. We're sending out messages, hey, the gym's closed for 2 weeks. Obviously, that. And then, and then I end up getting 11th and then take 10. So like, I was like, I was the guy, like, and I was like 3 or 4 points out and like, and even while I was doing it, I was like, I don't know if there's going to be a CrossFit Games because of what's happening in the world, but I have to try. Like I've been, we sacrificed for 6 years for this moment. And so didn't make it, and then there was no Masters Games that year, but still, it was still in my head. It was like, I still, if I'd qualified, I still would have felt like I accomplished the goal that I set out to do for 6 years, and so in the middle of all that, obviously I'm super, devastated. I can't believe it. Like, why that? Like, why God, after 6 years, you primed me for this moment. Everything felt right. Everything was good. Like the day before you take away this shoulder and then I get within like 2 points. Like it was like the worst, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, I wish I'd gotten 100. I wish it just like, I can't even use my shoulder and like, sorry, I had to drop out. Like, no, I was able to just eke my way painfully through all these workouts and then and just miss it by a hair. Right. And then, so like I'm going through that whole situation, which is like personally hard to just like rationalize, like, why would this, why would this happen? And then, and then simultaneously the gym is closed. And so, so in the middle of me recovering and trying to rationalize and question what, then our gym closes and we close it permanently. We had to, our leasing company, thank goodness, like let us out of our lease a little bit early because we had only had a few like 6 months left, and they worked with us. And so, but yeah, just kind of everything that was on this, looked like everything was perfect. Everything was like going right where I went. Everything just fell apart, like just everything that we had as far as like that part of our world. Not, my family was doing okay, but my daughter was obviously losing her high school senior year and all that. Yeah. But from a personal thing, it was like, man, I'm just getting crushed right now, and so we lost that. And so, so obviously in that moment, I had to like make decisions like, okay, like, what do I do? Now, on one hand, I'm kind of, I didn't make it, but the games got canceled. So whatever. But on the other hand, like, I still wanted, like, this was it. Like, this was kind of my for sure thing. So what now, and so just like, what do I do, God? Do I just quit? Like, are you telling me like I should stop doing this? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I was trying to figure out what that meant. Like,
right.
what are you trying to tell me right now? And, and I talked to my wife and she's like, no, like, also, what else was I going to do? Cause we were stuck at home and I just, working. Like, I was like, so I just look, I had, so then I had to rehab the shoulder and I had to like, luckily I had the time, obviously, because everything got canceled. So I could take my time and come back so, and then through that, then by December, because they had closed the games down, again, the Competition Legends Masters Championship, they invited me to come out to Arizona and compete in December and so it ended up being like the games for Masters, like all the top guys were there. And because, there was one guy that couldn't come, he gave me a backfill spot. And so I was like, okay. And I hadn't even really tested my shoulder out. So I got second at that competition. So I was like, okay. And then, forward into 2020 and, kind of healing up and everything's going good. And, I qualified for the CrossFit Games the next year. I ended up, qualifying 8th and they took 20, but I was like, I have to go top 10 just to like stay from the year before. Like in my head, I was like, I've got to do this thing to go, and so, and then obviously, more than the CrossFit, and then I got to go and it was an amazing year and it was kind of more perfect than it could have been had they even had the games the year before. That whole year experience, then being able to go and with my family and like with my kids and my wife and just having actually gone through what I had gone through the year before, it meant so much more than even if I had gone when I was expected to go, and obviously there was a lot more like, going through all that, God was like working and talking and working through me. And like, by the time, I had put so much of myself and who I am and my identity and who like, especially those last couple of years where, I'm going to go to the CrossFit Games and no one's going to stop me. And I ended up almost like being fueled by negativity. And if anyone else thought, if anyone said otherwise, like you were dead to me. And I started taking it, very serious and very like, and it kind of turned me into, to some people, I started like putting up walls and I started like protecting myself from anyone that I felt was a threat or a negative on me. Cause I was like I was so wound up in this concept of, I've got to I have to control everything. I literally have to control every element to qualify to get in this top 10, and I think, so what I learned is God was like, you can control everything, but I have all the control. So like you can control what you eat and how much you sleep, and you can control your hours of training, and you can control who's around you and who's this. But if I want to, I'm going to pop your shoulder on you and I'm going to take it all away from you because you're not in control. So like, I really, really, really had to just surrender. Like what happened after that shoulder injury and going into the CrossFit Games the next year is I just was like, you know what, I'm just going to give everything to God and just say, hey, I'm going to train as hard as I can. I'm still going to, take it seriously. I'm going to eat right and all these things, but I'm going to stop putting my identity and all of this worth and all of like, all this stuff that was so stupid and so like world, driven, but I just got wrapped up in it. I got wrapped up in this concept of that. And I think, even owning the gym, kind of people around me, it was kind of like, I just got wrapped up in this thing of who I was supposed to be. And all of that got stripped away. All of that got taken away. And I had to just kind of, surrender it and give it back to God and say, hey, if you want this, I'm down with it. I'm going to go and I'm going to try to be a light and I'm just going to give every chance I have. And, I'll go there and I'll be positive and I'm going to, change a lot of just how I was, my approach changed. And then, and that just made it so much cooler. Like there's events, like the very first event, was a run and we had to run like 4.5 miles or something. And it was hot. And I just remember literally you're dying, you're running like these 5-minute miles. I was like, why are we running so fast? But still just thanking God, like literally looking up and just realizing like, oh my gosh, like I don't deserve this. I wasn't supposed to be here, but now the timing is perfect. And like, I'm here. And so I just soaked the whole experience in. It was super fun. It was way I feel like it just was so much more than it would have been if I had made it on my own. Like if I had kind of made it on my own, I don't think I would have grown as much as I did with that shoulder injury and just all the thing that happened. And I did well. I tied for 5th. So I ended up in 6th place overall. So it wasn't like, it was a great weekend. I don't even care about that so much. Like I have just walked away with super smiles and had a blast, and our family had a lot of fun. And, then even since then, God's been still just working on me and like continuing to tear away, continuing to peel off those like self, titles and self identities in who I am and who CrossFit and in being a games athlete, and just like just giving it all away eventually and just saying, hey, just kind of whatever you want, I'm giving it to you. And you've blessed me with these talents, and you've blessed me with the ability to do CrossFit. You also blessed me to coach. So I'm just going to do all of it, give it to you, and you just use it how you want. You know what I mean? And instead of me trying to get wrapped up in my own personal goals, that was like the most recent, I would say, really difficult thing that in the moment someone would say, hey, are you really happy you popped your shoulder? You'd be like, no, like, what are you talking about? Of course not. I wanted to work. Like I worked so hard for this, and then you look back and you're like, okay, like so much I learned from God in in that moment, in that injury. He just, so many Bible verses and so many things that you just like learn, all the, when I am weak, you are strong, and all that stuff. You're like, oh, I get it now. I actually understand that concept now. So,
right.
Really, really cool. Yeah.
Man. There's so many things I want to ask you. I came out of that. I have also a lot of like just comparison analogy stories that popped into my head. I think though that the first thing I'm curious about is because Tiffany, your wife, what was her like voice for you and perspective for you? Because I know like that's a gift, right? To have a wife and somebody who knows you well, and who has the same heart for the Lord that you do. So like, was she right there with you, or was like when you look back on this? What was she saying to you all through those 6 years?
Yeah. So I'm super blessed to have her as my wife, because she, if I've been lucky, if anything in the world, I say, hey, I think we're going to do this. She's pretty much always been like, okay, I trust you. Let's go. Let's do it. So with the CrossFit thing, she was 100% on board with that from day one. She supported me. Again, it was because we're like a team and everything that we do. So while I was shooting for the CrossFit games, I was also obviously coaching my daughters and shooting for them to do well in high school volleyball. And, which actually was really good. My daughter, we went undefeated this last season with my second daughter in volleyball. So like we accomplished that goal also. And then simultaneously, my wife, I don't know if her story where she lost 150 pounds in the last 10 years doing CrossFit. So I was also her coach through all of that. She started doing CrossFit in the gym. After we built a gym, she would not do CrossFit in my garage. She hated it. But once that we got a gym and we got a community of other people that she would do it around, and she had some other health problems where I finally was like, enough is enough. Like, we got to fix this. So it was kind of like our family was on 3 separate missions simultaneously working together. So it was, they're supporting me, and Tiffany was just, 100% rock behind me. Like, she's literally my pit crew, my coach, like especially at events, at competitions, like they know me backwards and when to talk to me and what food do I need. And they're like that, even at home or in the gym, and then I'm helping her with what she's doing and making sure she's on track and that. So through the 6 years, she was always my support team, and they loved it. They have a lot of fun with it. Like, I don't think in 6 years I've had anyone else judge me on a single workout, open, qualifier, Wadapalooza, and somebody be like, oh, you must cheat your way in. No, like, she cold sets me. If there's one person that no reps me, it's my wife. Like, she no reps me in the gym right now on a daily. She'll just walk in and be like, you're not low enough. Like, she lives for that stuff. So she doesn't. Yeah. So she was like my biggest fan, really, all the way up. So when I got injured, I'm not sure if she didn't feel it more than me, because, like, I at least could feel it and like go through it, but she just had to sit there and watch. She had to watch me crumble. She had to watch me just like she never really seen me go through that. She's seen me do little injuries, but I just, keep fighting. But this one, she physically saw it take me out, like, and she had never really seen that. And I know, like, she was just struggling also, and just praying the whole time, and just trying to, get me through that. So once, we were done, and I, was like, okay, we're going to keep trying, she was 100% supportive of me. And, we talked a lot about, what this meant and lessons I was learning. And I started sharing all, like I said, like learning about peeling all the things off, because for the last couple of years, like I said, I'd become so absorbed and self-concerned with my goals that she literally had to become almost like a buffer between people. There were certain people, even in our gym, where I had become, in my head, they were like toxic to me, but reality was I was like this like Tasmanian devil in the gym that I owned. Like, just, if you looked at me wrong, I was like, why are you even here? Like, it was kind of like, and she became the buffer to all of that. That's how much she cared about it. She was willing to like do all these things. So, so we worked through a lot of those things too together, where, we talked and prayed and read books together and do all those kinds of things. She's like a super prayer warrior. She's like the ultimate, like, she holds women's Bible studies at our house all the time. Like, she's a champ. So, like, she's like, I always say as a husband, like, I couldn't do anything without her, but like, for real, like, for real, without her support, obviously, I don't think I could have done I wouldn't even sniffed at this stuff. Cause I just, when that you can chase after a dream with the support of your wife that much, then you can go. Like, you can kind of you can release it all and just go, and so that's a blessing for sure, is to have someone that will be all in with you, no matter the outcome. Because I always know, like, obviously, if I didn't make it, she doesn't care. She can, like, but when I did go and she was in the stands, that was literally the most important thing, is the moment I walked out on that field and I saw her and my kids. Like, that was all I was shooting for. Like, that was it. That was all I wanted. So, it wasn't anything else. So,
I want to talk a little bit about this. Like, you were talking briefly and alluding to the idea that, it was taken away from you. You were fourth, and then your shoulder went out of your control. And then a year later were given it back. We would attribute that to the Lord.
Absolutely.
And, the idea of how much that changed your self-entitled heart to a gratitude type of a heart. And like, have you seen that get applied in other areas of your life since then, or been able to recognize when your self-entitled heart is creeping in and shift?
Yeah, for sure. It's like shifted my whole way of life. Like, I just think, like, before that, I just was like, this is just who I am. I'm just this way. Like, and like, my wife loves the Enneagram stuff and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, like, I'm just an 8, and that's just the way it is, right? I'm black and white. And
what's an 8?
An 8 is like, I don't even know. She knows more about it, but like, very black and white, very like, there's right and there's wrong, there's this and there's that. And if you cross me, like, you're dead to me. But if you're not, I'll be really loyal to you. But the moment you cross me, like, I'm out. Like, we wear anger on our, like, we're always like on the verge of like, that's
Tasmanian devil.
Yeah, Tasmanian devil. Yeah. And so, and I think I just was like, okay with being that person. It was kind of like, well, that's just who I am. Like, everyone else needs to deal with it. Like, this is right and this is wrong. And so I think a lot of all those layers got pulled away in everything. I think, like, for sure. Like, I think, I'm way more, have a heart of gratitude for everything. Like, even, coaching my daughters or doing whatever it is that we got to do, there's just way more gratitude there. Or, even right now, we're starting to figure out, like, we really trying to figure out even what to do with the gym. Like, we really started feeling like, okay, there's a need for a community of fitness where it's a, more like what Faith RX is doing, where how do we incorporate, God into fitness again? Like, how, because we had a gym and it was very positive and everyone knew that we were Christians, but obviously I was a bad representation of that to some people, but it still was like a really positive place. We didn't play music that was bad. We just had this really cool, it was just an interesting community, and it's gone. And so, but at the core of that still was like there was a lot of me in that place in my programming, and I'm the boss, and this is how you do the workout and all these things. And now we're at this other place of just, you know what, like the fitness doesn't even matter, right? It's like, we need to get people together and just like pray and be together as a community and, you know, be better, you know, support each other as Christians to go out into the world and do their jobs better. And let's just use fitness as a tool to bring us together and have fun. Like, it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter what goes on as far as the fitness part. Whereas I still was so wrapped up in, you know, my way and the CrossFit way, and you have to do it this way. And I said, put 135 pounds on the bar, and I can't believe you did 155. And I was like so wrapped up in me and what I thought I knew. And now I've learned, like, even when people come work out, and they'll be like, they know the old me. And so they have a hard time being around the new me, where I'm like, they're like, well, what should I do? And I'm like, whatever you want. I don't care. Like, I want you to do a really good workout. So like, if you need to put 65 pounds in the bars, crush it. If you want to do, you know, 200, great. Like, this is the goal. I want you to be safe, but like, we're just here to have some fun, sweat, workout. And like, so it's literally my whole, like, almost my whole mindset has shifted to everything. Where I was always thought about me and my control and just all the things, where it's not anymore. And obviously I still have those moments where I have to, like, okay, never mind. Or, you know, you hear about something that's going on in CrossFit and someone's cheating over here, and it just, something will spark the old me and I'll get all riled up again. I'm like, never mind. It doesn't matter. It's not about me, you know, like so we really shifted our mindset to like, how can we just impact others? Even if it's our friends, it's our neighbors, is it people in the country? Like, we're not sure yet. We're still working through all that, but that's our goal right now, is just transforming everything into that. So yeah, I would say it's almost radically changed everything. And I don't know if without that injury, if that would have happened. I don't know if that, because it's almost like the single point of shift where it took a long time. It didn't happen immediately, but by, you know, even by, I would say, like this last December. So it took almost 2 years probably for all of those layers to just keep getting peeled away and keep getting peeled away. And even after I made the games, and it was kind of like, okay, but now what, God? Like, okay. And then, you know, around December of this last year, it finally, like, you know, a few things really clicked. I read a couple books, and I read a book by Louis Giglio. Was a table in the presence. I forgot the table in the presence. It's from the Psalms about the, you know, God prepares a table in the presence of our enemies. And it's kind of
Psalm 23.
Psalm 23. The whole book is about Psalm 23 and like what it's really saying. And I literally was like, my brain exploded. And I was like, oh no, I literally was there and I messed up. And so I'm bad. My bad. So it is, all of that. But I don't know if without that injury, that stupid shoulder, if that would have even resonated with me, you know what I mean? In that way. So yeah.
Right.
Super, you know, point in my life.
Yeah. And I'm sure there will be many more. One of my favorite analogies in a novel or a book is in a C.S. Lewis, one of the Chronicles of Narnia. Have you read those, or are you familiar with the stories?
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh yeah. I love C.S. Lewis and Tolkien. Oh yeah, all that stuff.
So Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which is my favorite one. And there's this character, Eustace, who's just a bum. Like, he's so self-centered, right? Everything's about him. And so when things aren't going his way, he's just pouting or angry or whatever. And he has no control. He's thrust into this situation where he's not the king of the ship, basically. And he just has to do what people tell him. And he's like pissed off about it the whole time and miserable. And then they land on this island and he wanders away and he turns it through some circumstances. He ends up becoming a dragon. And it's, you know, it represents like just the inward self, the ugly self. Like, he becomes hideous to everybody, but he now knows it. Like, because they're so afraid of him. But he can't do anything about it. And he meets Aslan, who's like the Jesus character of those stories, and has this change of heart. And Aslan takes him to this pool, and he's like, well, okay, if you wash, you can get the scales off. You can be who you're made to be. And he tries, and it hurts, and he gets this layer of skin off, but he's still a dragon. And Aslan says, well, you got to go deeper. And he tries, and he gets another layer off. He feels like it like really hurts, and he gets thicker, you know, layer off, but he's still a dragon. And he has to ask for help. And then Aslan does it. And it's like the worst pain he's ever experienced in his life. And he wants it to end, but it goes on for a while. But it works. Like Aslan is able to rip all the layers off and turn him back into this person. But now he's like for other people. He's generous. He's like renewed. And as you're describing like all the layers coming off and for other people, I'm like, that sounds so much. I love that imagery.
No, that exactly. It's very similar. That was it.
You weren't a dragon though. You're in Tasmania.
No, I wasn't a dragon. I didn't get to that point.
No, I don't think so. But I think like that's the humble nature of being on the other side is like when you're before you get turned into a dragon, everyone like you know it. Yeah. You don't know that's the case, right? Like you have to be on the other side of it to see it. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. That's a good, it definitely sounds right.
Yeah. So what was your kids' perspective on, that year of fourth, then shoulder gone, and like what have they taken away from that with you? And maybe you don't know, but I'm curious.
They don't talk to me a lot about it. My son is like my super fan, so he's really, really he follows it real tightly in a very quiet way. Like during qualifiers and things, he's like, he knows exactly where I stand. He knows all my competitors' names. He knows everything they're good at. So he is that. So yeah, when I didn't make it that year, they were pretty bummed out. They knew because like the reality is also they sacrificed with me for 6 years, like they knew there were certain vacations that we didn't go on, or if we went camping, we were only going for this many days, or like, and they were okay with it. They never complained about it, but they still were part of that. They were, as much of, they had to sacrifice with us as a team. So I also felt like in a way that I let them down. It was like, oh my gosh, like I asked you guys to do all these things. And then I didn't follow up, I didn't. And as, as a dad and as a guy, you just don't want to do that. Right. You're always like, I don't want to let anybody down. Yeah. And I think they were on the other end of it, I think they saw also the change, and they saw that, that I wasn't going to give up, and I was going to change my approach, and we were going to change how we did it. And I was going to like release and give it to God. And so we were able to talk to them a lot about that. And so, simultaneously, obviously, like my oldest had her senior year taken away, her second half of her senior year. And then my second oldest got her sophomore and her half of her junior year taken away. And without, not being able to school or sports got completely, ripped apart. And so we tried real hard to like correlate all of that, as in like God's in control of everything. So like, even though you're going through this and I'm going through this and you're going through that, right? Like just look for God, seek him, find out what we can learn. How are we going to grow through this? Like, we're not going to be mad about it. We're going to find out what we're learning here, even though it's hard, and it's harder when you're 16 and 17, obviously, because all they know is like what happened to them, right? It's easier when you're my age to look back and see, I can look back to my, all the way to when I'm 18, and I can see everything that God did. So now it's easier for me when I do have that injury to look back and say, well, I saw God take care of me in all these other times. And so I have faith now, because obviously I know he's done it before, and it's easier for me to trust the future and know that he's got it taken care of. But when you're 16, 17 years old, there's a little to look back to, and you're like, oh yeah. So it's concepts that we try to talk to them about and grow in them, and keep doing that. So, I think they came through it as good as they could. Luckily, they go to a private school and a Christian school. And so we have them, they have good foundations also. And they I think they learned a lot of lessons too, through either my injury or their experiences, or kind of all of us going through it simultaneously. It was a kind of a weird thing that we all kind of went through something together. So I think, for them, it would be more interesting to see in my 3 or 4 years, like where they are and like what they learned and what's going on with them. But I hope they learned something through all that. Yeah.
So is the advice that you gave your kids, right? Like, look for the Lord. What's he doing? Is that the same advice you'd give somebody who's in the middle of their own hard season right now? Or is there?
I would, yeah. And I think I definitely would. I would say, like, and it's so hard and it's so easy to say, you know what I mean? I know it's easier said than done. And I think it depends also, like I said, on your age and how long have you been a Christian, and how can you look back and see when he has taken care of you. And, you know, like for me and my wife, we can see, you know, just so many times when miracles happen and little tiny things happen, and, you know, our path that led us to where we are, and little, you know, things that, again, at the time, there's probably like 10 things I could say, oh, that was difficult, got fired from this job. And then it all led to where we were, you know, and I think, you know, it's that faith thing, and just trying to, you know, tell people like, hey, like, you know, the Bible's clear, God is for you, right? It's clearly stated, you know, a bunch of times in there, but it's literally like, you know, I'm for you, I'm not against you. You know, God knows the plans. He's known us since we're in the womb. Like he knows what's going on, you know, before anything. It's a weird concept, right? Like all of that's so hard. And it is always the advice I give. And even when I coach and work with high school kids and stuff, it's always the same thing. Like, you know, you have to like see this in a spiritual way. And I know that's hard because, you know, when you're young, it's hard to see everything in a spiritual way, but we talk a lot about that with our kids. We talk a lot about that with anyone. Like, you know, there's spiritual things going on all the time around us, and we don't see it. And it could be, you know, there's that tug and war between the world and what we see and what we want. And, you know, you gotta like just trust God. And I know, like, again, it's so much easier said than done, right? It's so like, I think we wrestle with that still daily. Like there'll be one day where we're like, oh yeah, just trust God, and like, yay, go through with no worries. And the next day, like 10 things happen. And you're like, I don't know how we're going to, you know, how are we going to make it? And you're like, well, but if we're going to trust God, then we have to like not worry about this thing. And it's, you know, but like, yeah, I think that's a struggle for sure. So, but I would also say, like we do with our kids, like try to look back in your life and see where God did something for you. Like find those pieces of the puzzle, because as soon as you start seeing that puzzle get put together, I think it is easier to look for the future. It is easier to have faith. It is easier to trust in those hard times because he's done it before. Yeah. You know, and I think that for me, I know that's the best. That's the easiest way when I can look back and go, okay, well, you got me here. I know that for sure, because I would not be where I am now without God. Like you know, who knows where I would be, but it would be not here. There's too many miraculous events, or just not healing miracles, but just too many little things that wouldn't make sense at the time. Yeah. And that just gives me a lot of peace of mind moving forward, even in this, like the why now. And again, you get through it and you're like, oh man, it was so much better. Like I get it now. And I understand what Paul was saying and all of the things he keeps saying. And you know, it's really cool to have that. But yeah, that would be, you know, my biggest advice is look for it. Yeah.
And what do you say to the person who is like, oh, I can't name when God's been faithful to me? Like, yeah, and I'm sitting here in this season right now. Like, what do you say to
that's a tough one. I think you know, I would just say then you need to like probably get into some prayer and the Bible as much as possible and just ask him for those things. I think sometimes, you know, I've known a lot of people, my wife is great at this, where like it's like prayer isn't really prayer. They don't talk to God the way maybe you should just talk to him. Like I know, like through my whole life, I've always been very simple and just felt like, hey God, like, you know, whatever you need for me to do today, just I'll do it. Just put me there, let me do it. Keep it simple. You know, I'm not praying like ethereal, grand prayers, right? Like just keeping it really simple. And I think sometimes people forget that they can do that, right? Like if you're in a hard time, like just literally talk to him the way you would talk to your best friend, only he's got omnipotent power to help you. You know, it's like he's got everything. And sometimes his answer is going to be a long ways away, or sometimes it's not going to be great. But like, you know, the Bible obviously is always cool when you read a good book, or the Bible, or a book that has a lot of wisdom in it. I know that helps me feel better. And, you know, but I think praying is those two together, you just start to feel better. You start to feel like he's got you taken care of. And, you know, even if you start to read the Bible and you start to look at old stories in the Old Testament or anything, it starts to give you clarity of what he can do and who he is. Even if he's not doing it in your life, you know he can do it. So just start talking to him that way and start asking him to show him, like, hey, just show me the things in my life that you're doing or what you have done. Or, you know, I don't know. I'm not the most like complicated guy when it comes to like praying and talking to God. I keep it real simple. You know, it's always just like, hey, you know, simple prayer today, God, or at the moment, you know, like, I pray a lot in the gym. Like I said, it's always a simple thing. Sometimes before I do a heavy weight lift, I'll pray real quick, you know, and it's just like, it's dumb, but it's like just super simple. Like, hey God, like right now, if you could keep me safe, that'd be super cool right now. And like, it's just keeping it simple with you. You know, I know that you can, and I'm not going to pretend that you can't. So, yeah, I would just say that, like, seek him out, like real hard, like get, you know, I think like my wife would say, get intentional about it. Like, don't just wallow in it, go get intentional about finding him, because I think when you do, he will be there. He'll find you, you know, he'll respond. It's sometimes better to do that than to make him come find you if you're not seeking him, because sometimes he'll smack you upside the head with an injury that you don't want to have happen to you.
Yeah, shoulder might pop out. I've been punched in the face.
Yeah,
so,
like, exactly.
I think just like any good dad, right? He would he'll make sure he gets your attention if you need it.
Yeah. So. And like a good dad, if your kids come to you with like intense questions, you're going to respond to them. You're not just going to be like, nah, you know, I don't got time for this.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes though, if they're yelling at me, but they don't want to come find me.
That's true.
I'm like, you can walk your butt up here and come talk to me. And I think God does that to us sometimes.
I agree.
Quit yelling at me. Come find me and talk to me. You know?
Yes.
So put a little effort into it there. Buddy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. Just be intentional. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, it's anytime you start going down the road of like God as a father analogies, it gets rich real quick. So
yeah. Right.
No, it's good. I'm curious, as you are in now a couple years removed, what is, and this is how I like to wrap these things up. Okay. What's the hard thing that you're in the middle of right now?
So right now, the hard thing that we've been in, and probably since the last 6 months, is like a now what to God face, right? Like when we closed, like I said, when we closed the gym, it was kind of like, at the time I felt kind of good about it, at ease, because it was kind of like there was a lot of stress. And like I said, it was almost it felt negative to me, as far as like it started to feel like that way to me. And like I said, now I've kind of really realized that like a lot of those were just my own. I was casting my perceptions on people and individuals and saying, oh, you are against me because of this. But the reality was, like, one person did one thing at one time, and then I just painted that picture across everyone. And so recently, and then my wife had it put on her heart a couple of years ago, really like to prepare for something new. And like she been praying and praying and praying and praying and praying. And like, and so right now, the hardest thing right now is like sitting in silence. And it just isn't who we've been for 47 years. Like for our marriage, we've coming up on what, 23 years of marriage. And we've just been very go-getters, like start a business, do this, you know, even in our early days, like we used to make shirts in our garage with a screen printing press. And then she sold this on eBay. And then I ran a volleyball club. And then we did this. And then we did that. And it was always just like, keep trying, go, open a CrossFit, do this, start ROMWOD, you know, like we are always kind of that. And then all of a sudden it was like, we found our place in almost silence of like, okay, now what? And also we almost want to we want to make sure that all of those things were done out of like, not worldly goals, but like financial goals, like paying bills. And I'm not saying we still don't have those problems. We're just in a little bit different place where, you know, how God can you use us the most right now. And it's actually really challenging to like sit and pray and look and read and pray and look and read and, you know, go to Wisconsin and like try to find like what, you know, because we feel like he's telling us something, but we're still like, but what is it? Like, how do we execute this thing that we feel like you're telling us to do? And yet there's so many, you know, the negative is we used to have a gym. So if we say, let's open a gym, like we both can rattle off 50 problems with a gym, like 50, it's almost like knowing all the information we know is detrimental. Where before we were like, we'll just open a gym. We didn't know anything.
What could be hard about it?
It was 2012. So it was like so early in the CrossFit days. It was like, well, I don't even know. I never, you know, whatever. Or, you know, we went blindly into things and now we have like all these reasons to not do it. And so, yeah, the hardest thing right now is like seeking out seeking out God so intentionally, that's almost harder, because you're like, I don't even want to make a mistake now. It's like, how, God, can you use both of our talents together, which we believe that when we're together, we're really strong. Like her strengths are not my strengths, and my weak, we're very much really good together. So we're trying to like be intentional about what's next. And, and I'm still coaching this, and she actually teaches pre-K part-time, just because like that need popped up. And so we've been just trying to fill needs. Whatever the need is, we'll fill that need at the time, because, whatever God puts in front of us, we feel like we're going to take that. And then recently we have all these people that are like telling us all these things about they're seeking community, and they're lonely, and they want a place, and they need belonging. And even though they go to church, that's not it. They're looking for this other thing. And so, we feel like we have pieces, or that we can help with that, but how exactly do we execute on that? And so that's been hard. It really is, when you're just used to saying go, and God is like, just keep sitting and waiting. And and so we just pray a lot of like, all right, God, reveal it, give us wisdom, show us something, give us like, even tell us to take wherever that first step is, because we'll go and we'll start going. So, that's really been the last 6 months for our life, have been that, just kind of waiting and seeing and making plans and scrapping those plans. And you go and look at a warehouse space, and they're charging outrageous money. So we're like, okay, God, that's going to require a miracle of cash. What else can we do? So yeah, we're doing that, and just figuring out how we can best serve right now. And that's our goal, is how do we best serve right now?
Yeah.
And we're finding ways, but I think we're close.
Yeah, well, it's good. I'm also wired to just go do stuff, and I've some of the stories in scripture that have been really encouraging for me are like thinking about, because we read these stories, and we're like, I want that life. Yeah, that guy did awesome things. Exactly. But then when I like slow down, I'm like, oh wait, Moses, it took him 80 years.
I know, right?
Before he knew what he was doing with his life.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
He had 40-year gap before. Yep. And even just something more small scale, like Ezra was leaving, and this one still blows my mind. It's such a challenge for me, but he left Babylon, where they had been in captivity, to take the Israelites back.
Yeah.
And they had all this wealth, and they had to cross the desert. And it's like a 6-month journey or 7-month journey. And he stops with this whole crew of people for 3 days. And he's like, we're just going to pray, and we're going to fast. We're going to seek the Lord. And if I was with him, I'm like, bro, we got to go. Like, what are we doing? And
for sure. Yeah.
You know what? Like, they waited, and then they ended up taking the like more dangerous shortcut route, and they got there 2 months, 3 months ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
But like in those 3 days, it would have made no sense.
Yeah, right. For sure. Right. No.
Or like
absolutely.
The Israelites getting ready to enter the promised land. They sat on the other side of the Jordan River for like a year.
I know. Right. Crazy. They were right. I know. No,
like God loves to make us wait.
Oh my gosh. No, he loves to do all those things. I think he loves to put us in those places where there's nothing left to do but talk to him about it. Yeah. Right. There's like literally you're just stuck. You're like, all right, God, you're in control here. Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I same thing. You read about Elisha, and you're like, yeah, someone throw a cloak on me and let's go. Like, I'm ready. You know what I mean? Like, just let's do it.
Yeah. I don't need to sit here anymore. Let's do something.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So yeah, no, that's good stuff though, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're in a blessed place.
Oh yeah. Basically. No, for sure. We are. And we know that for sure.
We're
yes. Yeah. Yeah. It gets hard. It is hard sometimes when you're used to going, like you said, but we feel like it's, God's done a lot of work in us over those 6 months instead of prepare us for whatever's next. So it's even better to be in the right heart and mind, and really know, kind of just really make sure it's not about us. It's not about, I don't want to make that mistake again. I feel like that was a mistake. And so we want to make sure that it's, which is, like you said, it's a really cool place to be in. It's a little scary sometimes, because sometimes you feel like Satan is just like, oh, really? Like,
you're a bum.
I'm about to bring it this time. You thought you had attacks before. You weren't even trying to like be a faith-based thing. So sometimes we feel like we get attacked, and we're like, oh, come on. But it's a good thing too.
Yeah, no kidding. Gets a little stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for you guys. It sounds like,
thanks.
you really are coming into a new season, right? Kids out of the home.
Yeah.
Who's like kind of like career shit.
Mm-hmm.
So cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And join you in prayer a little bit and see what God does with you guys, because obviously he loves to use the two of you and your family, and I'm sure he'll continue. So
thanks.
Dude, thanks for
Absolutely.
hopping on and sharing your
great.
story. I was on the edge of my seat for a while there.
Exactly, right?
It was good.
Cool.
For people that are, maybe you piqued their interest, they're curious to know more, maybe they got questions.
Absolutely.
How can people get connected with you?
Social media. I'm on Instagram. It's just Jeremiah.head. So super simple. I'm on Facebook too. I think that's just Jeremiah Head, and I'm on Twitter even, I think, but I know a lot of people are on Twitter, but and I'm all three. Yeah. I am not a really fun social media follow, but I do interact with a lot of people on the back end of it with that. Yeah. So anybody has questions about anything, I get a lot of ROMWOD questions sometimes too, or just CrossFit, or, like you said, anything going through hard times. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yep.
Well, I'll attest to it. You've been super available and gracious with your time with me, and obviously being on here. And so thanks for being generous and sharing what God's given you and your experiences and resources.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a blessing. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.